The following is a reading of the Twitter Files Part 3, released by Matt Taibbi. I'll spell that out for you. It's MattTaibbi, Matt Taibbi at Twitter. Again, please like and subscribe. This kind of information usually gets hidden in the news, so we really want to get this out there, and I'd really appreciate it. And with that, here we go. The Twitter Files Part 3. The Twitter Files, The Removal of Donald Trump, Part 1, October 2020 through January 6th. The world knows much of the story of what happened between riots at the Capitol on January 6th and the removal of President Donald Trump from Twitter on January 8th. We'll show you what hasn't been revealed, the erosion of standards within the company in months before J6, decisions by high-ranking executives to violate their own policies, and more, against the backdrop of ongoing, documented interaction with federal agencies. This first installment covers the period before the election through January 6th. Tomorrow, Schellenberger, MD, will detail the chaos inside Twitter on January 7th. On Sunday, Bari Weiss will reveal the secret internal communications from the key date of January 8th. Whatever your opinion on the decision to remove Trump that day, the internal communications at Twitter between January 6th through January 8th have clear historical import. Even Twitter's employees understood in the moment it was a landmark moment in the annals of speech. As soon as they finished banning Trump, Twitter execs started processing new power. They prepared to ban future presidents and White Houses, perhaps even Joe Biden. The new administration, says one exec, will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary. Twitter executives removed Trump in part over what one executive called the context surrounding actions by Trump and supporters over the course of election and, frankly, last 4+ years. In the end, they looked at a broad picture, but that approach can cut both ways. The bulk of the internal debate leading to Trump's ban took place in those 3 January days. However, the intellectual framework was laid in the months preceding the Capitol riots. Before January 6th, Twitter was a unique mix of automated, rules-based enforcement and more subjective moderation by senior executives, as Bari Weiss reported. The firm had a vast array of tools for manipulating visibility, most all of which were thrown at Trump and others pre-January 6th. As the election approached, senior executives, perhaps under pressure from federal agencies, with whom they met more as time progressed, increasingly struggled with rules and began to speak of violations as pretexts to do what they'd likely have done anyway. After January 6th, internal Slacks show Twitter executives getting a kick out of intensified relationships with federal agencies. Here's Trust and Safety head Yoel Roth lamenting a lack of generic enough calendar descriptions to concealing his very interesting meeting partners. These initial reports are based on searches for docs linked to prominent executives whose names are already public. They include Roth, former Trust and Policy Chief Vijaya Gadde, and recently plank-walked Deputy General Counsel and former top FBI lawyer Jim Baker. One particular Slack channel offers a unique window into the evolving thinking of top officials in late 2020 and early 2021. On October 8th, 2020, executives opened a channel called US 2020 XFN Enforcement. Through January 6th, this would be home for discussions about election-related removals. especially ones that involved high-profile accounts, often called VITs, or very important tweeters. There was at least some tension between safety operations, a larger department whose staffers used a more rules-based process for addressing issues like porn, scams, and threats, and a smaller, more powerful cadre of senior policy execs like Roth and Gaddy. The latter group were a high-speed Supreme Court of moderation, issuing content rulings on the fly, often in minutes and based on guesses, gut calls, even Google searches, even in cases involving the president. During this time, executives were also clearly liaising with federal enforcement and intelligence agencies about moderation of election-related content. While we're still at the start of reviewing the Twitter files, we're finding out more about these interactions every day. The policy director, Nick Pickles, is asked if they should say Twitter detects misinfo through ML human review and partnerships with outside experts. The employee asks, "I know that's been a slippery process. Not sure if you want our public explanation to hang on that." Pickles quickly asks if they could just say partnerships. After a pause, he says, "Example, not sure we'd describe the FBI, DHS as experts." This post about the Hunter Biden laptop situation shows that Roth not only met weekly with the FBI and DHS, but with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, DNI. Roth's report to FBI, DHS, DNI is almost farcical in its self-flagellating tone. "We blocked the New York Post story, then unblocked it, but said the opposite. Combs is angry. Reporters think we're idiots. In short, FML. Fuck my life." Some of Roth's later slacks indicate his weekly confabs with federal law enforcement involved separate meetings. Here he ghosts the FBI and DHS respectfully to go first to an Aspen Institute thing, then take a call with Apple. Here the FBI sends reports about a pair of tweets, the second of which involves a former Tippecanoe County, Indiana counselor and Republican named John Basham, claiming between 2% and 25% of ballots by mail are being rejected for errors. The FBI flagged tweet then got circulated in the enforcement Slack. Twitter cited PolitiFact to say the first story was proven to be false, then noted the second was already deemed no violation on numerous occasions. The group then decides to apply a "learn how voting is safe and secure" label, because one commenter says it's totally normal to have a 2% error rate. Roth then gives the final go-ahead to the process initiated by the FBI. Examining the entire election enforcement Slack, we didn't see one reference to moderation requests from the Trump campaign, the Trump White House, or Republicans generally. We looked. They may exist. We were told they do. However, they were absent here. In one case, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee joke tweets about mailing in ballots for his deceased parents and grandparents. This inspires a long Slack that reads like an Titania McGrath parody. "I agree, it's a joke," concedes a Twitter employee. But he's also literally admitting in a tweet a crime. The group declares Huck's an edge case. And though one notes, "We don't make exceptions for jokes or satire," they ultimately decide to leave him be, because we've poked enough bears. Could still mislead people, the humor-averse group declares before moving on from Huckabee. Roth suggests moderation, even in this absurd case, could depend on whether or not the joke results in confusion. This seemingly silly case actually foreshadows serious later issues. In the docs, execs often expand criteria to subjective issues like intent. Yes, a video is authentic, but why was it shown? Orientation. Was a banned tweet shown to condemn or support? Or reception. Did a joke cause confusion? This reflex will become key in January 6th. In another example, Twitter employees prepare to slap a mail-in voting is safe warning label on a Trump tweet about a postal screw-up in Ohio before realizing the events took place, which meant the tweet was factually accurate. Very well done on speed. Trump was being visibility filtered as late as a week before the election. Here, senior execs didn't appear to have a particular violation, but still worked fast to make sure a fairly anodyne Trump tweet couldn't be replied to, shared, or liked. Very well done on speed. The group is pleased with the Trump tweet is dealt with quickly. A seemingly innocuous follow-up involved a tweet from actor Real James Woods, whose ubiquitous presence in argued over Twitter data sets is already a Twitter files in-joke. After Woods angrily quote-tweeted about Trump's warning label, Twitter staff, in a preview of what ended up happening after January 6th, despaired of a reason for action but resolved to hit him hard in future violations. Here a label is applied to Georgia Republican Congresswoman Jody Hice for saying no to big tech censorship. And mailed ballots are more prone to fraud than in-person balloting. It's just common sense. Twitter teams went easy on Hice, only applying soft intervention, with Roth worrying about a Wawa censorship optics backlash. Meanwhile, there are multiple instances of involving pro-Biden tweets warning Trump may try to steal the election that got surfaced, only to be approved by senior executives. This one, they decide, just expresses concern that mailed ballots might not make it on time. That's understandable, even the hashtag #StealOurVotes, referencing a theory that a combo of Amy Coney Barrett and Trump will steal the election, is approved by Twitter brass, because it's understandable, and a reference to a U.S. Supreme Court decision. In this exchange, again unintentionally humorous, former Attorney General Eric Holder claimed the U.S. Postal Service was deliberately crippled, ostensibly, by the Trump administration. He was initially hit with a generic warning label, but it was quickly taken off by Roth. Later in November 2020, Roth asked if staff had a debunk moment on the SCYTL, Smartmatic vote counting stories, which his DHS contacts told him were a combination of about 47 conspiracy theories. On December 10th, as Trump was in the middle of firing off 25 tweets saying things like, "A coup is taking place in front of our eyes," Twitter executives announced a new Level 3 de-amplification tool. This step meant a warning label now could also come with de-amplification. Some executives wanted to use the new de-amplification tool to silently limit Trump's reach more right away, beginning with the following tweet. However, in the end, the team had to use older, less aggressive labeling tools at least for that day, until the Level 3 entities went live the following morning. The significance is that it shows that Twitter, in 2022 at least, was deploying a vast range of visible and invisible tools to rein in Trump's engagement, long before January 6th. The ban will come after other avenues are exhausted. In Twitter docs, execs frequently refer to bots. Example, let's put a bot on that. A bot is just any automated heuristic moderation rule. It can be anything. Every time a person in Brazil uses green and blob in the same sentence, action might be taken. In this instance, it appears moderators added a bot for a Trump claim made on Breitbart. The bot ends up becoming an automated tool invisibly watching both Trump and apparently Breitbart. We'll add media ID to bot. Trump, by January 6th, was quickly covered in bots. There is no way to follow the frenzied exchanges among Twitter personnel from between January 6th and 8th without knowing the basics of the company's vast lexicon of acronyms and Orwellian unwords. To bounce an account is to put it in timeout, usually for a 12-hour review or cool off. Interstitial, one of many nouns used as a verb in Twitter speak, denialist is another, means placing physical label atop a tweet so it can't be seen. PII has multiple meanings, one being public interest interstitial, i.e., a covering label applied for public interest reasons. The post below also references proactive V, i.e., proactive visibility filtering. This is all necessary background to January 6th. Before the riots, the company was engaged in an inherently insane, impossible project, trying to create an ever-expanding, ostensibly rational set of rules to regulate every conceivable speech situation that might arise between humans. This project was preposterous, yet its leaders were unable to see this, having become infected with groupthink, coming to believe sincerely that it was Twitter's responsibility to control as much as possible what people could talk about, how often, and with whom. The firm's executives on day one of the January 6th crisis at least tried to pay lip service to its dizzying array of rules. By day 2, they began wavering. By day 3, 1,000,000 rules were reduced to 1. What we say goes. When panic first breaks out on January 6th, there is a fair share of what the fuck type posts mixed in with frantic calls for Twitter to start deploying its full arsenal of moderation tools. What is the right remediation? Do we interstitial the video? Asks one employee in despair. This freedom or death tweet from Stop the Steal Gaffety Mike Caudry elicits heated reactions. Roth groans about Caudry, this asshole, but seems determined to stick at least superficially to rules, itching to act if this constitutes incitement. At 2:39 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, a comms official asked Roth to confirm or deny a story that they'd restricted Trump's ability to tweet. Roth says, "We have not." Minutes later, Roth executed the historic act of bouncing Trump, i.e., putting him in timeout. "I hope you are appropriately corpsect," said a colleague. This theme of policy perhaps being stressed by queries from communications executives who themselves have to answer the public's questions occasionally appears. 2 days later, you see chatter about pulling comms out of the loop. The first company-wide email from Gaddy on January 6th announced that 3 Trump tweets have been bounced, but more importantly, signaled a determination to use legit violations as a guide for any possible permanent suspension. What the actual fuck? Safe to say Trump's go home with love and in peace tweet mid-riot didn't go over well at Twitter HQ. A few last notes about January 6th. Roth at one point looked and found Trump had a slew of duplicate bot applications. By the end of the first day, the top execs are still trying to apply rules. By the next day, they will contemplate a major change in approach. Watch Schellenberger MD this weekend for the play-by-play of how that all went down. By January 8th, which Barry Weiss will describe Sunday, Twitter will be receiving plaudits from our partners in Washington, and sitting U.S. presidents will no longer be heard on the platform. Lastly, people on the left, right, and in between want to know what else is in the Twitter files, from suppression to shadow banning of leftists to lab leak theorists or amplification of military propaganda or conservative accounts. We know everyone has questions. And we've stumbled on tidbits here and there about topics ranging from COVID to foreign policy. The reality is the data sets are enormous, and we're still working through them. More is coming. Good night, all. And that is the end of the reading of Twitter Files number 3. Stay tuned for number 4. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.